I encourage people, please tell me all the questions I can answer for you. That's the benefit of doing this, is that it can be very personal and we can talk a lot more about you and what you want to accomplish and what has brought you to Stockton. But I'll just tell you a few things about the major. It's been in existence since 1997. We graduate about 25 students per year with a Bachelor of Science degree. That's a good number. If it was much bigger, that would be difficult because we have some really, we spend a lot of time with our students in the lab. There's upper level courses in chemistry and molecular biology and biochemistry, where it's faculty members spending a lot of time with the students. So 25 per year is a good number. If that wasn't enough laboratory experience for people, we also, all students will complete either a senior research project done on campus in the lab of a faculty member, or they'll do an internship off campus. And I'd be happy to tell you about what some of the students have done in the past. So this is a special opportunity for people who want to pursue pharmacy school. If you come right out of high school, we have an articulation agreement with the Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy at Rutgers University. Rutgers has these articulation agreements with, I believe, Montclair and St. Peter's is their other two schools in New Jersey. And these articulation agreements, the students do their prerequisite courses at Stockton it can take either 2 or 3 years. It's the student's choice. And regardless of whether it's 2 or 3 years, the students then go on to Rutgers for 4 years. There's admissions requirements that have to be met for this. And again, it happens when people are in their senior year of high school, they apply for this. These students will go on and earn a BS in biochemistry from Stockton and a PharmD from Rutgers. And that's the highest degree you can get in pharmacy. We have many students who are interested in pharmacy school. This is not the only way to go to pharmacy school. Students can also, the most common way is to get an undergraduate degree and then apply for pharmacy school. That's the most common way. All right, this is a list of potential careers that you can do with a biochemistry degree. And the green arrows are the ones that our students have actually ended up doing. So pharmacist is on there. We always get plenty of students that are interested in being pharmacists. We always get students that are interested in being high school teachers or being dentists or going on to medical school to become physicians or going on to veterinary school. We also get students that are interested in going on for further science degrees, and they go on to pursue PhD programs. And I'd be happy to tell you where some of our students have gone to any of these types of schools. Generally, I found the ones who want to be pharmacists or dentists or doctors or veterinarians, a lot of times they knew this coming out of high school, although some figure it out while they're at college. Almost always the ones who go on to get a PhD, they did not think they wanted to do that or were not aware of that while they were in high school, and they find it during college. And again, I'd be very happy to tell you where our students have gone to school. So this long list of potential careers comes from a brochure put out by the American Society for Biochem and Molecular Biology, or as we call it, ASBMB. So this is a professional organization for anybody who works in this area. Okay, this is also from this same brochure from ASBMB, and it just gives you some statistics about what people do with this degree and how much money they make. So this chart on the lower right tells you how much money they make based on whether they have a bachelor's, a master's or a doctoral degree. And I think this brochure was from 2016. So, you know, these numbers are from 4 years ago. And it tells you what some of the people end up doing. Again, these numbers are probably similar to what we see. We see some people, as we say, go into industry. That means they go work in a lab using their degree. We always get students that want to do that. And then we get some that go on for further schooling. And then we get those, you know, graduate school, medical school, dental school, or veterinary school. We also get a fair number that go on to become teachers. And almost all of the ones who became high school teachers didn't come into college saying they wanted to be high school teachers. The biochem degree now leads to, can very, very easily lead to certification for both the biological science certification required for middle school and high school teaching, as well as the chemistry certification. So you guys are in high school or not far removed from high school. Your high school supervisors could tell you how desirable it is to have somebody who can teach both high school chemistry and biology and be certified and licensed to do that. All right, so I've talked about ASBMB. Our degree, Biochem Molecular Biology, is accredited by this organization, and there's 90 schools that have been accredited. Here's a map over here. This is the map of how many states have how many accredited programs. And because we are an accredited school, we are able to give the ASBMB certification exam. And students take this exam. It's only an hour-long exam. They take it in their senior year, and it's graded by a faculty member all over the United States. I'm one of the people that grades it. And as I said, there's, I don't even know, probably more than 100 faculty members all over the United States that grade this. And if students earn a high enough score, then ASBMB gives the degree an accreditation. All right, so they'll actually give a certificate that says the degree has been certified by them. And again, they are the professional organization for this field of study. So we've been giving this exam, I think, 4 or 5 years, and so far we've had 15 students that have earned this. It's a very nice distinction to earn. And again, it's an exam that only takes an hour long, so that's a pretty good return on investment. I finally want to talk about some special opportunities. We have a biochemistry society at Stockton. It's called Stockton University Biochem Society. This is the student chapter of ASBMB. You certainly would not be required to join, but students can join. They get access to magazines put out by ASBMB, and we always do service-oriented projects. So a couple years ago, we invited high school teachers onto campus to show them new lab experiments they could do. Another year, we brought on AP biology students to help prepare them for the exams. We always try to do some service-oriented event. And students who are members of subs can be nominated by the faculty to this honor society. So over here, this Michael Slaza, he was somebody from last year who was chosen to this honor society, this national honor society. And you can see in 2020, Stockton had 5 students among 56 nationwide. So that's a pretty good percentage, I would say, for our Stockton students. One other thing I wanted to say is, as I said, our students have to do a senior research project or a senior internship, and students have the opportunity to present at national meetings. Now, I had 4 students that I was going to take to the national meeting this year. The meeting I go to is experimental biology. Lucky us, it was going to be in San Diego this year, but of course it got canceled due to COVID. But this student up here, this is one of my former students, and there he is presenting his research at this conference, and that was from 2 years ago, and that was also in San Diego. So this particular conference moves around, and I'll point out that obviously it's not cheap to fly to San Diego and stay in hotels, but students were able to apply for on-campus support. They got money from the provost office, I believe, and they didn't have to pay a dime to go to San Diego and present their research. I think that's all the slides that I have. So I'd be very, very happy to answer any questions that people have. Tell me about yourself, and I'll tell you about Stockton and how well you match.
Okay, well, I'm Felix. I'm from Puerto Rico. I moved into the United States last year, and
Okay.
I've been interested in science and specifically the medical field for quite some time now.
Mm-hmm.
I always like helping people, which is one of the main reasons that drew me here. In general, I just don't like seeing people hurt. It's another thing that I have. So it just kind of came in naturally, and I right now didn't get the total points to enter the med program that you guys
Mm-hmm.
have, but I will keep retrying to apply it and keep getting my grades higher.
Right, right. Yeah, that, so you're talking about the articulation agreement.
Yeah.
In all honesty, those people who think they're in, they are in, but they only stay in if they get a high enough MCAT score. And if you get a high enough MCAT score, and then you can go to medical school without that program. So most people go to medical school without going through that program. That's by far the most common way. We certainly get plenty of pre-med students because the MCAT requires, 2 years of chemistry, a year of biology, I think a year of physics, and highly recommends biochemistry. And all those courses are required in the the BCMB degree. So, that's why a lot of people want to do that degree. And it also, I think, makes people stand out more than a biology degree, because a biology degree is very, very, very common among pre-med applicants. So a biochem degree maybe has that advantage that it's a little bit different. It also has the advantage that there is that required research component at the end, and the medical schools will tell you they love to see that research component. They love to see that students have done research and that they have presented it somewhere. And you would be required to do research at some point as a BCMB major, and you would have the opportunity to present it off campus. I mean, it sounds like you sound like other students we've had that has a very sincere desire to help people. That's what drew you to medicine.
Yes. I personally, to put it simple, my main reason is I've been hurt multiple times, and I know most people have been hurt too by something or someone. So I know I can't necessarily help as a person giving advice like a psychologist or something. So I thought, hey, I don't have a problem with blood either. So next best thing.
Yeah, and it's very common for students who want to do medical school. They know it coming right in to college, and so they get started on their science courses. We always get those that they thought med school was out of reach for them for whatever reason. It's too expensive, or I'm not a good enough student, or it's too much school, or it's too much science. We always get those students, and they come and they take the classes anyway, and it's not out of reach.
I just want to clarify, Kelly, in case people misunderstood, you don't have to go through that articulation agreement to go on to med school.
I understand. I
No.
guess. and I think most people must have understood. I just think it's an easier way.
It's an yes and no. It's an easier way. Yes, because if you fulfilled all the requirements, you'll have a spot in medical school. No, because if you don't fulfill all the requirements, then you lose the spot, and you could get a spot anyway. I mean, if it's pretty unusual to have this for people coming out of high school to have this agreement with medical schools. I mean, the great majority of people complete their 4-year degree and then they go to medical school. And the great majority of our Stockton students, and I would imagine students at any university or college, they get their 4-year degree and then they go on for more schooling, for medical school.
And we've had many students with BCMB degrees, biology degrees, go on to medical school, chemistry degrees.
Oh yeah. It's I'd be hard pressed to think of a year where we didn't have at least one person who wanted to go to medical school who got into a New Jersey medical school. I mean, most of the students do stay somewhat locally. The pharmacy students are all over the place. I mean, we've had pharmacy students get into California, Arizona, all over the country.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit, like you were saying earlier, about where some of our students have gone on to school beyond Stockton?
Yeah, sure. It would. The ones that probably travel the farthest and widest, meaning the greatest geographical distance from New Jersey, they're probably those seeking PhDs or pharmacy school. A lot of the dental students and the medical students, they tend to stay closer to home, I'm sure because the cost is a big factor. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a medical or dental student that went farther than Pennsylvania. They tend to stay in the New Jersey schools for that cheaper tuition. But like I said, the pharmacy students, we had somebody go to University of Southern California. I'm not going to remember the name of the school in Arizona, but we had somebody go in there. We had a steady stream of them going up to, there's a relatively new pharmacy school in Worcester, Mass. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's Massachusetts College of Health and something else and something else and something else. But I know it's in Worcester, Mass. Where else have we had people? Oh, we always get people that get into Fairleigh Dickinson and Temple. Those are usually the closest pharmacy schools. We've had people get into pharmacy schools in Maryland. And for graduate school, they have spread far and wide. We've had them get into Wisconsin, Washington University. That's not Washington and Washington State. That's the one in St. Louis, Missouri. We've had them get into University of Colorado, University of Virginia. And if I had my notebook at school, I could tell you a lot more, but those are the ones off the top of my head that I know.
How about internships around campus? Have we had a steady stream of students go into particular industries around school or home?
Something else I wanted to say too. I can tell you how highly I think of this degree and this major is 2 of my children are majoring in biochemistry at Stockton. And one of them had a National Science Foundation research experience for undergraduate. So if you just Google NSF with a dash REU, and you poke around that website, you would find internships that are available. They usually want people finishing their junior year, going into senior year, but these are paid internships at universities all over the country. You can find them in any area of science, and it's 10 weeks, and they usually give you around $5,000, and you work in the lab of a faculty member there. So my daughter was supposed to go to Kansas State this year, starting at the end of May, but that got canceled because of COVID. So thank you, COVID. I'm sure we all say that on a daily basis. Thank you, COVID. So we've had a steady number of students do those. One lucky student went out to San Diego for that. They've gone to San Diego, South Carolina, Texas, Florida, New York. Rowan always has their own program where they take a couple of people to do biomedical research over the summer. We've had some students go over there. That's probably the most common internship. And then, quite honestly, students find internships on their own. I know we've had people that have worked with the Philadelphia Police Department, various sheriff's office, and things like that. But they find them based on, I know I'm going to be in this county during the summer, so let me see what's available. Generally those are done with the student taking the initiative. Anybody else have any questions? Any things I'd be happy to tell you about this major and life at Stockton? You can tell me what you want to do, and I can tell you if we've had a student do it before.
I'm not sure exactly what, but I've always had an interest in working in labs and in that sort of stuff. What kind of jobs am I able to get that involved in?
Right. Yeah. We always get a certain number of students that they're drawn to the major just because they like working in labs, or if they didn't know that coming in, they find out they like working in labs as they take them. That used to be kind of tough in our, within 30 miles of the Stockton campus. Those jobs were kind of hard to come by. But now Telligent has opened up in the Hamilton area. And one year they hired 7 of our graduates. And we seem to have a steady number going over there. They're more of a manufacturing biotech company. They make a product, and our students help. Their job is to help make the product, test that it's made properly, and so on. Other laboratory jobs that people have found, in this immediate, people have done other things too in the laboratory. Some have gone to work for the state police. That is a laboratory job. They're not on the investigating end. They're on the testing of evidence end. And I know there was something else I was just, and sometimes it's things that are, they're not necessarily strictly biochem, molecular biology, but they're certainly related to it. We had somebody that went and worked for the Mosquito Commission in Cape May County, and they do have a lab there. In addition to testing the levels of mosquitoes, they have to test various aspects of these mosquitoes. There's companies where they're always going to hire biochem grads, and then there's companies where you might be surprised they hired biochem grads. But if the degree at Stockton is going to provide a lot of laboratory experience, so that usually makes people very marketable if they want to do a laboratory job. And then of course there's always the big time pharmaceutical companies. People have gone to work for companies like Merck or AstraZeneca or things like that. And there the jobs could range from synthesizing organic molecules to isolating proteins to doing a DNA-based treatment or something like that. There's a wide range at those big companies.
I'm more interested in chemistry than biology. Biochemistry is probably the best to go for my sort of need, I feel.
You think chemistry is better than biochem or biology?
Well, I'm more interested in the chemistry side, but I took biochem. So
okay. Yeah. No, this is many years ago because I've been teaching a long time, but there's a figure I used to show that shows, I forget what the number was, greater than 50%. I think it was between 50 and 60% of chemical research is actually biochemistry research. And
Yeah,
this is
that's why.
being done at the company level. This isn't a government research lab. This is, chemical companies, greater than 50% was really biochemistry. I would argue that's an advantage for doing biochem over chemistry, is because a lot of research is oriented towards life science or finding out something about life science, and not getting the biology will kind of leave out a picture of that.
Yeah, that's why I took biochemistry, because I didn't want to get myself stuck in just the chemistry region. I was looking for that whole encompass everything sort of.
Yeah, we always get people that are interested in laboratory jobs, and we always try to bring back. We have this, we call it a meet and greet, where we bring back a former student, somebody who graduated, to come to talk to the current students. And we brought back somebody just a couple years ago. It was actually one of my former research students, and she ended up working for a pharmaceutical company, and she didn't end up getting any further degree, no more schooling, but she is very, very, very involved in overseeing clinical trials of the various drugs that get tested from these companies. And she always, she wanted laboratory research, and that's how she started off. But, she ended up doing this, and she didn't know about it when she was an undergraduate, but she just followed where her interest was, and that's where it led her.
That's where I'm hoping to be, in a lab, just researching stuff. Not sure what yet, but
yeah,
I'll figure that out in college.
Right. Yeah. And at your age, it would be pretty surprising if you knew exactly what it was. Most people figure it out as they go. Anybody else tell me about yourself? And like I said, I can tell you if another student had a similar way of thinking or wanted to pursue a similar path.
Hi, my name's Brianna. I'm not technically a biochemistry or a molecular biology major. I'm going to be majoring in just biology. And hopefully I want to pursue physician's assistant.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Stockton does have that program for incoming freshmen. You could get accepted into their program for physician's assistant. But once again, just like the pharmacist, the great majority of people who ultimately become physician's assistant didn't start off in a physician's assistant program. They got their 4-year degree, and then they went on for physician's assistant. Yeah, I actually know very well one of our students who became a physician's assistant, because I went to my doctor's office for my regular checkup, and there he was. He was a physician's assistant in training. He was at that point in his training where he had to do rotations. I think he said every 6 weeks or something like that. So he was med school when I knew him. That's I'm going to med school. I'm going to do med school. And somewhere along the line, he just changed his mind, and he told me he really liked physician's assistant. He liked the work-life balance, and he was, obviously very successfully completing his physician's assistant program. And he was at Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, he was at Thomas Jefferson. So that the only thing I tell you about the physician's assistant, I think that's one of those programs that they tend to want to weed out kind of the pre-med backup plan people. The people who really want to go to medical school, but they're just doing this as a backup. And so they do require those hours as either an EMT or I think, a certified nursing assistant. So that's just the type of thing you'd want to be aware of it. You wouldn't want to find out about that, as you're doing your application for physician's assistant. They require, I think, about 200 hours. So you don't have to have it done before you come to school, but at some point it would have to get completed.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll tell you a funny story about that student who became physician's assistant too. Is like I said, he was med school. That's all he could talk about, med school. And I had him in class, and when I would give a lecture, he'd always want to relate it to something you might study in med school. And somewhere along the line, he found a girlfriend, and his girlfriend actually ended up being the top student in my class. And she was one of those people that, I want to do med school, but I don't know if it's right for me. I don't know if I'm as aggressive as all these other students. I don't know if I'm smart enough. And I just kept telling her, like, you just have to be you. If you go to med school, you don't have to be somebody else. You just have to be you. You're going to deal with aggressive people, but you still get to be you. Well, she ended up in med school, and he ended up as a physician assistant, as I told you. So, life can give you some funny bounces.
Does anybody have any general questions or admissions questions that Jessica can answer for you?
I personally don't.
I did put my email address in the chat. I also provided the link to the Facebook page just so that you all could kind of view the recordings of all of our admissions ambassadors. Like I said, they hosted a series of Facebook Lives, just answering frequently asked questions. Every day I had a different theme, different topic, whether it was housing, whether it was dining options, whether it was about what major or what class to take your first year. So if you really want to get in contact with them, please do so through Instagram or our Facebook page, and email me, and I'll get you connected to our students so that they could provide you the student perspective, including students who are in the science majors, the bio, and we have marine science, environmental science, we have physician assistants. All of our students come from a wide array of majors, so feel free to let me know after this, and I will go ahead and get you in contact with them.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, thank you for joining us today, and I put up some email addresses for you in case you have any questions you think of in the future.